Good morning, it's Friday, January 4th, 2019. It's a new year, and I'm going to do a little update on my fiction and article releases, my plans for them, and writing tip and a short story, and maybe some thoughts around writing related politics, if there is such a thing. So I'm not doing a strict release for chapters and short stories and articles for a little while, in part because of what's going on with Patreon. If you're not aware, they have been sucked into the culture war, and as a result, many people are leaving the site. So I am being reserved in promoting them for a time and to see where things go. I might also be writing about them more and speaking about them more critically, and so I'm hesitant to promote them until I figure out all my thoughts on that. For Valkyrie of Desire chapters, I'm going through some deep edits for short stories and for articles that I'm focusing my time on the virtual tabletop game, and editing for now. And I'll keep doing these weekly videos, and hopefully I'll get back to a regular release schedule soon. So writing tip. It's funny, I had the word sculptures, like the actual physical thing that a sculptor would make, and I meant to say sculptors instead of sculptures. So I meant to say the profession of sculpting in the book that I've already released and submitted, and someone whose first language was not English caught it, and it had gone in front of my eyes many times and other eyes many times, and no one else had noted the error. So once again, it was this lesson reinforced of doesn't matter how many times you read your own work, you need to have other sets of eyes, and preferably many other sets of eyes. Look over it, as many as you can get in front of it. You don't have to listen to all their suggestions, but these little eyes, and I mean these little errors, often don't get caught. And I've already spoken and written about paying an editor. Certainly a copyright, if you can afford it, if it makes sense for your budget, to go through and proofread, to catch these kinds of things. If you know, research them, they can be worth it, to make sure you don't have those kinds of errors, because they'll go through it line by line. But if you don't, it's got to be that many more eyes to read through it, and you'll probably still miss a few. So that's my writing tip. Don't trust your own eyes for those kinds of errors. Trust yourself for the flow, for the style, the theme, all these other things. You can trust yourself. You can go with your gut as you get experience. But even the best of us are going to miss those small errors. So the game session, the tabletop game session, the Demoness arc in the Fungi Caverners was completed successfully. And now the party has a teeny, maybe hand-sized elf girl wailing named Valisa, and her tears are sweet, because of her elf blood. Elf tears are sweet. And so the party's adjusting to being taking care of a little elf girl, and there's a circus that's coming to their harmless hamlet, and that will be this will be a fun upcoming session this Sunday, Monday. My brother's character called Grievance will be present for this session, and then the following one in a couple weeks. So I'm excited to have a full party for both sessions. Should be a lot of fun and fuel for some good short stories that I'll release as I can. Short story. I was thinking about a couple different possibilities, thinking about my recent trip to New Orleans and a dream I had about this kind of alien feeling of language barrier and just not being familiar, getting lost. And I was trying to think of, I remember a commercial I think it was an Australian commercial that I saw on YouTube where it was an actual alien. I think it was a commercial to learn English, to promote learning English. And an actual alien walking around and having trouble communicating and being looked at oddly to kind of push that point that you feel like an actual alien when you can't communicate and you're in an unfamiliar circumstance. So I was just thinking about that. It's something I could pull into a story for sure. But in my own life, my own experience, in 1997, I believe it was, I was in Russia. Yes, that long ago. I'm that old. For summer of when I was in college, when I was at my Willamette University, and then over the summer, I was in Russia for about 5 weeks, and one night I was drinking heavily, and I was interacting with this girl, and like that was part of why I was drinking, kind of. But I drank too much too quickly, and she disappeared, and I was like, oh man! But I had stayed late. I had missed my ride, so because this girl that I wanted to talk to more, so I had no way back to my homestay, and all right, I'll just run. And it was starting to be, it was around 3 or so in the morning, so I started to run, and I didn't really speak Russian, and I was really drunk, and I just ran and ran and ran a couple miles, and there were men asking for a light. I assume they were asking for a light. I was like, didn't say anything, just kept going, and I got lost, really lost, and it was a very strange landscape of all these buildings that were 95% built and then hadn't been completed. So 10, 20 years ago, they were almost completed and then abandoned. And these fields of overgrown grass around them, just this city that had never been completed. People just never lived there. And I'm just running through this landscape that looked the same as a mile earlier. I'm like, I'm really lost. I'm still drunk. I don't speak the language, and I'm so tired. So I looked around. I didn't see anybody. I didn't want to see anybody. And then I went into the grass and I laid down and I slept. And I woke up, and hours later, it was light out. I went and I hopped on to some form of transportation. They have, at the time, you would move from one to another as one thing would break down. As maybe the bus would break down, you move to the van taxi thing, or you move to an actual taxi. It was all really inexpensive, and people seemed quite used to moving from one form to another, just kind of flowing. It was a very surreal experience. I felt very alien, and I just kind of moved with the flow of traffic and managed to get to a familiar part of the city and find my way back. and yeah, it was a good lesson, and that I try to hold on to that feeling of alienness. Um, and I had some other experiences like that when I was in Japan, but it's something I want to use again and recall and invest in a story sometime. But have a great week.